Right now, the sport touring world feels upside down. New machines push past $25,000. But here's the shift. You do not need any of that to cross a continent, because under $6,000, there are bikes that have already done it, not relics. Proven, purpose-built highway weapons. Bikes that have crossed countries again and again and kept going. This is the 300,000-mile club, not hype, proof earned the hard way. So the question is no longer what is new, it's what refuses to die, and that is where this story begins. Step away from spec sheets, ignore marketing, and listen to riders who have actually lived with these machines, and something interesting happens. The endless options begin to fade, not because there aren't great bikes out there, but because very few have truly proven themselves over extreme mileage. And that's why this conversation keeps circling back to the same three names. Not the newest, not the flashiest, the ones that earned it mile after mile, year after year. It usually starts with the Yamaha FJR1300, the one that immediately feels right, balanced in a way that is hard to explain until you ride it, comfortable without feeling bulky, quick without feeling intimidating, refined but still sharp when you need it to be. It adapts without hesitation, whether you are navigating daily traffic or disappearing across state lines for a long weekend. If there is a default choice in this category, this is it. Not because it lacks character, but because it consistently delivers, builds trust quickly, and then quietly keeps it over time. Then the feeling shifts in a very noticeable way. Where the FJR aims for balance, the Honda ST1300 leans fully into distance. Everything about it feels deliberate. The way it holds the road with a planted, almost unshakable presence. The way it shields you from wind, noise, and fatigue over long hours. The way it settles into extended highway stretches like it was designed to stay there all day. Less urgency, more endurance. It does not rush the journey, it stretches it out, making long-distance riding feel natural instead of demanding. For riders who measure trips in days instead of miles, this approach starts to make perfect sense. And if you appreciate real-world comparisons like this, subscribe for more. Push further, and the tone changes again. The Kawasaki Concours 14 brings a different kind of energy into the same conversation. Where the others feel composed and controlled, this one feels like it is holding something back. Something more aggressive, more immediate. It brings a level of power that feels almost excessive for a long-distance machine, and yet it works in a way that feels surprisingly natural once you experience it. It does not just cover ground, it devours it. There is always more throttle, more pull, more urgency waiting beneath your right hand. For some riders, that edge feels unnecessary. For others, it is exactly the reason this machine stands out. Now you are looking at three completely different interpretations of the same idea, each one proven not by marketing, but by miles. One that adapts to everything, one that is built to go farther than anything else, and one that turns every mile into something more intense. None of them are chasing the same goal. And that is exactly what makes this comparison matter. Because this is not about picking a universal best, it is about understanding what kind of rider you are and what kind of machine you actually want beside you when the miles start stacking up. But here's the thing. Names do not tell the whole story. Reputation does not tell you how a bike feels. Because the real difference, the one you notice the moment you twist the throttle, it starts at the center of the machine. And that is exactly where we are going next. But first, let me ask you this. Have you ever ridden a bike where the engine completely changed how the whole machine felt? Maybe something smooth or something aggressive that surprised you. Drop your experience in the comments, because insights like that genuinely help other riders understand what these machines feel like beyond just the specs. Now we get to the part that defines everything. Not the price, not the reputation. The thing you feel every second your hands are on the bars. The engine. Because on paper, all three are fast. But out on the road, they deliver that speed in completely different ways, and that difference changes everything. Start with the Yamaha FJR1300. This is what controlled strength feels like. Powered by a 1,298 cubic centimeter inline four. It does not try to shock you. It builds power smoothly, predictably, effortlessly. Roll on the throttle at highway speed, and it just pulls. Clean, linear, no sudden spike, No drama, just a steady surge that makes passing traffic feel almost effortless. Yes, it is quick, 0 to 60 in the low 3-second range, with a top end pushing toward 150 miles per hour. But those numbers do not tell the real story. What matters is how usable that power is. On long stretches, it feels relaxed, almost calm. In the corners, it responds with precision, never overwhelming, never fighting you. It is the kind of engine that works with you, not against you. Then there is the Honda ST1300, and immediately you feel the difference. Underneath sits a 1,261 cubic centimeter V4, and it delivers power in a completely different language. Where the FJR feels linear, the ST feels deeper, more grounded. Acceleration is still strong, right in that low 3-second range, but the sensation is heavier, more planted, more deliberate. On the highway, that changes everything. You roll on the throttle, and the bike moves forward in one smooth, continuous push. No spikes, no surprises, just steady, confident drive that makes long distance. Riding feel effortless. In the corners, it stays true to that character. Not sharp or reactive, but composed and predictable. Built for long, sweeping roads, not quick direction changes. Everything about it says, settle in and keep going. Then comes the Kawasaki Concours 14, and this is where the tone shifts. Because this engine does not wait. With a 1,352 cubic centimeter inline 4 derived from a hypersport platform, the moment you touch the throttle, it responds. Quick, direct, immediate. It does not build power, it delivers it. 0 to 60 drops under 3 seconds, with a top speed well beyond 150 miles per hour. But the numbers are not the point. The feeling is. On the highway, it is effortless, but never fully relaxed. There is always something underneath, a sense that more is waiting. Twist the throttle, and it answers instantly, surging forward with clear urgency. In the corners, that sharpness becomes impossible to ignore. It turns quicker, pulls harder, and feels more alive than the others. Not always necessary, but always present, sometimes even excessive. So yes, all three are fast, but they speak completely different languages. One is balanced and controlled, always working with you. Another is smooth and unending, built to carry you farther. And the last is raw and immediate, always pushing for more. But speed only tells part of the story. Because once the road stretches out and the hours start to add up, something else begins to matter even more. It's no longer just about how a bike moves. It's about how it lets you stay on it. And that's where comfort takes over. Power tells you how a bike moves, but comfort decides how long you will stay on it. Because after a few hours in the saddle, horsepower stops mattering. And suddenly, everything else starts to surface. So let us start with the Yamaha FJR1300. This is where balance shows up again. The riding position leans slightly forward, yet remains natural. Your hands fall easily to the bars, and your legs sit in a neutral position, never cramped, never overstretched. Hours in, you stay engaged without feeling worn down. The seat holds up over long days, although riders pushing serious mileage may still look for an upgrade. Where it truly stands out is wind management. The adjustable windscreen offers real flexibility. Raise it, and the airflow is pushed cleanly over your helmet. Lower it, and airflow returns when the temperature rises. The fairing protects your body without completely isolating you from the road. For passengers, comfort is present, but it is not built for endless two-up travel. Then there is the Honda ST1300. This is where the focus shifts toward long-distance ease. The riding position is upright and relaxed. You do not sit on the bike, you settle into it. The seat is wide, supportive, and clearly designed for full-day riding. And after hours on the highway, the difference becomes obvious. Your wrists stay light. Your back remains neutral. Your legs have room to move. Wind protection steps up as well. The larger fairing, combined with the adjustable windscreen, creates a calmer pocket of air around you, reducing fatigue over time. On cold mornings or long stretches in bad weather, that added protection translates directly into endurance. Passengers benefit too. The rear seat is spacious, with well-positioned grab handles, clearly designed with distance in mind. And at a certain point, it comes down to how it feels for you. So let me ask you, have you ever finished a long ride, and realized the bike mattered more than the distance itself? Maybe it was the seat, the wind, or simply how your body felt a few hours in. Share your experience in the comments because real-world comfort tells you more than any spec sheet ever will. Now step onto the Kawasaki Concours 14. Immediately, the difference becomes clear. This machine leans toward performance, and over long distances, it asks more from the rider. The riding position tips you slightly forward. The seat is firmer. The entire setup feels tighter, more focused. It is not uncomfortable. But after a couple of hours, you start to feel the trade-off. More pressure through your wrists, less room to move. That sharper personality comes at a cost. Wind protection remains solid, but it is less isolating than on the ST. You stay more exposed to the environment, more wind, more feedback. For some riders, that added connection is part of the appeal. For others, it's where fatigue begins to build. Passenger comfort is also the most limited here. It's still usable, but clearly not designed with long-distance ease in mind. Step back, though, and the overall picture becomes clear. One keeps you balanced and engaged over long hours. One isolates you from the elements and carries you farther with less effort. And one delivers performance, while asking more from you in return. Because comfort does not just influence the ride, it defines how far you're willing to go. And sooner or later, every rider stops thinking like a tester and starts thinking like an owner. Power and comfort can impress in the moment, but ownership, that's what stays with you. And that's where the real story begins, where it stops being about performance and starts becoming about ownership. Because what defines a motorcycle isn't the first ride. It's what shows up after years on the road, after the miles stack up, after the machine has been used the way it was meant to be used. And this is where these three start to align in a way that matters. The Yamaha FJR1300, the Honda ST1300, and the Kawasaki Concours 14 all rely on shaft drive. In everyday riding, that changes the experience in a very real way. There's no chain to clean at the end of a long day, no lubrication routine hanging over you, no constant checking and adjusting. You ride, you park, and you walk away. It's simple, it's clean. And over time, it becomes something you genuinely appreciate. On long distances, that simplicity adds up. Less maintenance, fewer interruptions, more time doing what the bike was built for. That's one of the reasons these machines keep appearing in high-mileage stories. They're built to absorb distance without turning ownership into a chore, and that naturally leads to reliability. Not the kind you read in spec sheets, but the kind proven over years of real use. These are motorcycles riders keep. Not for a season, but for the long haul. Machines that cross 100,000 miles and keep moving forward. Some push far beyond that, into the territory most bikes never reach. That kind of longevity doesn't happen by chance. It comes from engines tuned for durability, drivetrains designed to endure, and engineering that favors consistency over complication. But long-term ownership always brings the small truths to the surface. With the FJR 1300, one stands out quickly: heat. Spend time in traffic or ride through warmer conditions, and you'll feel it building around you. It doesn't stop the ride. It doesn't signal a problem, but it's there. And over time, it's something you learn to work around rather than ignore. Then there's the Honda ST1300, and this is where the conversation becomes more nuanced. Some riders bring up what's often called the pan weave. It's a high-speed stability behavior that can appear under specific conditions, most commonly when the bike is heavily loaded or set up poorly for weight distribution. Not every rider encounters it. In fact, many never do. But it's a known characteristic, and experienced owners tend to address it through proper setup, suspension tuning, and careful loading. Move over to the Kawasaki Concours 14, and the story shifts in a different direction. This bike introduces keyless ignition, which feels modern and convenient when everything is working as it should. Over time, though, it can add a layer of complexity. You're dealing with fobs, sensors, and the occasional troubleshooting step that simply doesn't exist with a traditional key. It's not a flaw that defines the bike, but it is part of the long-term ownership experience. Beyond those specifics, maintenance across all three settles into a predictable rhythm. Oil changes are straightforward. Shaft drive service is minimal, usually just periodic fluid changes. Valve inspections come up less often, But when they do, they require more time and effort. These are large engines, and accessing everything isn't quick. For some riders, that means setting aside a weekend in the garage. For others, it's a job better handed to a professional. Even so, compared to many modern machines, these bikes remain relatively approachable. There's less electronic clutter, fewer hidden systems, and a more direct connection between what you see and what you're working on. And that's really the point. Owning these motorcycles isn't about chasing perfection. It's about living with something consistent. Maintenance becomes part of the routine instead of a source of stress. The bike doesn't catch you off guard. It does what you expect, when you expect it. Over time, that consistency builds something far more valuable than outright performance. It builds trust. And once you understand what it's like to live with these machines, the next question comes into focus. Naturally, what does it actually cost to keep them on the road? And does that cost make sense in the long run? Well, now we get to the part quietly driving this entire conversation: cost. Because performance, comfort, and reliability only carry weight when you measure them against what these machines actually ask from your wallet. And this is where the picture sharpens. In today's market, a well-kept Yamaha FJR1300, Honda ST1300, or Kawasaki Concours 14 often lands somewhere in that $5,000 to $6,000 range. Not across the board and not without variation, but consistently enough that it's hard to ignore. These aren't worn-out projects or end-of-life machines. Many sit in that 40 to 60,000 mile window, right where these engines are just settling into their stride. That's the part most riders underestimate. These bikes weren't built for short ownership cycles. They were designed to cover distance again and again without wearing themselves thin. So when you step into one, you're not stepping into the end of its life. You're stepping into the middle of its story. And that reframes the value completely. You're not just buying a lower price, you're buying years of riding that are still ahead of you. Thousands of miles the bike has already proven to handle, with plenty left in reserve. They're also not rare finds. These were popular, trusted machines, and many were kept for a reason. Which means today, you're not chasing something elusive. You're choosing from a pool of real available options. Now stack that against the cost of something new. Spending well over $25,000 does bring more technology, sharper electronics, a more refined surface feel. But when you bring it back to what actually matters on the road, distance, comfort, real-world usability, the gap isn't nearly as dramatic as the price difference suggests, and that's where the equation starts to lean. Fuel adds another layer. In real-world riding, all three tend to fall into that 40 to 50 miles per gallon range, depending on how they're ridden. Efficient enough to cover serious ground without constantly thinking about the next stop. But range is where their personalities start to separate. The Honda ST1300 stands out here. Its larger tank allows it to stretch well beyond 300 miles between stops under the right conditions. That changes the rhythm of a ride, fewer interruptions, longer runs, more time spent moving instead of stopping. The Yamaha FJR1300 sits close behind, slightly less range but still more than enough to keep momentum intact. It finds a balance between capacity and feel without tipping too far in either direction. The Kawasaki Concours 14 leans another way. More power, more urgency, and naturally a bit less range when ridden with intent. It's not inefficient, just less focused on stretching every mile to the absolute limit. And this is where ownership becomes real. It's not just what you pay up front, it's what you hold on to over time. A lower entry point, manageable fuel costs, the simplicity of shaft drive, and machines that continue to deliver mile after mile without quietly draining your wallet, which brings everything full circle. At the beginning, the question was about performance. But standing here now, it's clear that performance was only part of the story. Because once ownership enters the picture, once time, cost, and real use take over, the definition of value starts to shift. And from here, the answer depends entirely on what matters most to you. So after everything, performance, comfort, ownership, and cost, we come back to the same question. Which one is the best? The honest answer is simple. It depends on the rider. Because these three machines were never chasing the same goal in the same way. They all solved the same problem: long-distance riding, But each one takes a different path to get there. Start with the Yamaha FJR1300. This is controlled strength. It does almost everything well without asking much in return. Commuting, weekend rides, long highway days. It moves between them without friction. There's power when you call for it, comfort when you need it, and a level of reliability that has already been proven over time. It doesn't try to dominate a category. It simply refuses to fall short in any of them. Then there's the Honda ST1300. This one is built for distance above all else. It favors stability, wind protection, and all-day comfort. At speed, it feels settled. Under load, it stays composed. It's not trying to entertain, it's designed to carry you farther with less fatigue, and it does that job exceptionally well. And then the Kawasaki Concours 14. This is where performance takes the lead. It's sharper, more immediate, more alive at every input. The throttle responds with urgency, and the entire machine feels more aggressive. Over long days, it asks a bit more from you, but in return, it gives a level of excitement the others don't aim to match. So there is no single winner, because best isn't about numbers or reputation, it's about fit, the right machine for the way you actually ride, and that brings everything back to something deeper. The idea of the 300,000 mile club isn't just about distance, it's about proof. These motorcycles have already shown that durability still matters. That long-term reliability isn't a promise, it's something you can see mile after mile, year after year, especially when they can still be found for under $6,000. Because sometimes the smartest choice is not the most modern one. It's the one that has already proven, over hundreds of thousands of miles, that it won't quit on you. Trends fade. Technology moves on. But endurance never goes out of style. And the right machine isn't the one everyone is talking about. It's the one still running, long after they've stopped. And if this helped you understand what really matters between these high-mileage giants, the next video goes even deeper into the machines riders swear can't be killed. Subscribe to Ride Along, and I'll see you in the next stretch of road.